Soaking the Charger on Swampert, Snipe with the Walrus. We know they've got the Dragonite. What is that final Pokemon? It is Metagross, so we need to play this very carefully. The tendency is going to be to bait, but hashtag I'm not fucking baiting. We are going to have to shield up absolutely everything, and then we are going to have to be careful the opponent doesn't make the catch, so we overfarm, pause a turn, throw the Earthquake in the middle of the Bullet Punch Earthquake, draws the final shield, the opponent is still staying in, we are going to commit our final shield and then overfarm, and again, we need to be really careful. They don't catch the Earthquake, we overfarm as much as possible, pause a turn, it's going to be Night-Night, Sleep type Metagross, Earthquake, returns Metagross to its Pokeball, the Walrus is overfarm, is a beauty. Back out comes Dragonite, double super effective Icicle Sphere is going to be all she wrote. GG's and thanks for playing. So welcome back to the home of Shadow Pokemon. A bit of a longer intro today, but I thought I'd give you an insight into some of my gameplay. So the Walrus was in a pretty good position in the end game. We needed Thunder and Earthquake on the Metagross, and the Ice type damage is double super effective to Dragonite. So lose con. If I start baiting, they call it, I'm pretty fucked. So I was going to go nukes all the way because hashtag I don't fucking bait. Another lose con would be them catching the Earthquake on Dragonite. So the way I prevent the catch is I overfarm. When I want to throw the move, I pause just for literally half a second. As soon as I see the Bullet Punch animation start, I hit my Earthquake and they cannot physically catch because they're stuck in the middle of their animation. So today we've got a pretty fun team. This is a team I use in Ultra League super often. However, we thought we'd try it out in the MLPC series here for the final time, and we went back-to-back 5-0s, giving us a 10-game win streak to getting into the battles. We lead Shadow Swampert, the GOAT, into the big thick boy Snorlax. We know the opponent unlikely to shield the bulkiest mon in the league. We land the Earthquake for big damage, get to the Hydro Cannon, the opponent shield up the Hydro Cannon, pivot out into Dragonite, and we have a great response with our Dragon Tail, Legacy, or Double Legacy I should say, Gyarados. The opponent goes for the Dragon Claw. We know we survive. We are going to return fire with the Crunch will be knocking out. After one more Dragon Tail, our Gyarados is super low, so Snorlax doesn't get too much farm. They do have a whole boatload of energy. Swampert, I don't want to get farmed down, so I'm going to have to bring in the Walrus. We have to be mindful of the superpower the opponent is farming up towards the back-to-back. I am going to commit a shield, hoping not to get baited. The opponent goes for the body slam. You hate to see it. This one probably will be the superpower, so I am going to have to double shield. Walrein is going to commit to the Powder Snow farm down. They bring out Excadrill. Hashtag I'm not baiting. Does the opponent respect the damage? They do not, and that is going to be all she wrote. GG's, and thanks for playing. Moving on to the next battle, we see an absolute Spice Lord running Chandelure. The opponent safe switches into Mamoswine. I am going to stay in, shield once, return fire with the Hydro Cannon to get a shield or do massive damage and look to catch the resisted avalanche on my Walrus. I go straight for the Hydro Cannon. The opponent thought they could tank it. Shadow Swampert says you cannot, and the opponent quickly concedes. Moving on to the next battle, we see Swampert into Excadrill. The opponent safe switches into a Waterfall Gary, and I choose to bring in the Walrus. You might be thinking, why did I not go to Gary? Well, Gyarados has a pretty good matchup against Excadrill despite being on Dragon Tail, whereas the Walrus really doesn't appreciate that rock slide coverage. I go for the Icicle Sphere. The opponent lets it go. I am going to throw one more Icicle Sphere, trying to pressure a shield from the opponent. The opponent does commit a shield. I would like to maintain that really positive alignment, so I'm going to shield up the Aqua Tail, throw 4 more Powder Snows, and the next Icicle Sphere. This will be either getting the final shield or knocking out, and our Walrein now has absolutely minimal farm for that Excadrill. That will be returning. The opponent does bring back out Excadrill. We get some chip damage for the road. This will mean if Gyarados does get aligned with Aqua Tail, we'll now knock out. Shadow Swampert, not the bulkiest, but we know we can tank a charge move, so I'm going to save my shield. The opponent throws the drill on pivot out into Haxorus, and Gyarados is now primed to sweep. The opponent is going to go for the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw does hit pretty hard from Haxorus. I'm going to go straight for the Crunch. Let's see if the opponent wants to commit the final shield. If they do, I'm just going to Dragon Tail farm them all the way down. The opponent realizes they can't do that. Back out comes the Excadrill. They fire off just before we make the Aqua Tail. Rock Slide will be knocking out, and at this stage now we're just going to be able to Mud Shot farm them all the way down. We do reach the back-to-back, but it's pretty pointless throwing a charge move. GG's, and thanks for playing. Moving on to the next battle, we see Swampert into Gyarados. You hate to see it. I pivot out into my own Gyarados, and the opponent farms up some energy and bring out Togekiss. If this is double charm, we will be looking at pretty fucked. Shadow Gyarados does hit pretty hard with the Aqua Towers I attempt to throw on CMP, but the opponent isn't that stupid. They are going to commit to the charm down, farm down, but we have got this Togekiss pretty low. I do want to come in with Walrien, get ahead on energy, however both Flamethrower and Ancient Power are pretty threatening to the Walrus. I'm just going to soak the damage on Swampert. I'm not going to throw a charge, I'm just going to continue to overfarm, wait for my switch timer to pop up and snipe with a few Powder Snows to get ahead on energy. The opponent's final Pokemon is Excadrill, and this is looking pretty tricky. Rock Slide would be super effective and Drill Run would hit us for huge damage. The opponent goes for the Drill Run and I'm going to YOLO the Earthquake. Does the opponent respect the damage? Yes, they do. This is now looking pretty tricky. We are going to have to shield. Here we are now all shields down. The opponent still has one shield remaining. Excadrill is now pretty much in Icicle Sphere range, so I throw the Icicle Sphere. They're one fast move away from the next charge move. I throw one Powder Snow, switch to Swampert. This charge move is going to knock us out, and it's going to be Walrein versus the world. We come in. The Excadrill continues to overfarm. They're now one fast move away from the charge move, so I have to leave this matchup with an Icicle Sphere. In comes Gyarados. The opponent is going to fire a charge move. We should survive. The opponent actually goes for the Aqua Tail. It looks like they're trying to make back-to-back charge moves, but Walrein says, hold my fucking beer, I've got you, team. Walrein fires one Icicle Sphere at the Gyarados and one Icicle Sphere at the Excadrill, and we somehow pull off an absolute miracle victory. GG's, and thanks for playing. Moving on to the next battle, we lead Shadow Swampert into Excadrill. You love to see it. The opponent pivots out into a Dragon Breath Gary, and this time I choose to come in to the mirror. You can see the Dragon Tails ripping apart the opponent's Gyarados. They go for the crunch. We don't get the debuff. We are going to return fire with our own crunch, fishing for the ever important debuff. The opponent shields it up. We do get the debuff. The opponent tries to farm down. Best buddy Shadow Gyarados hangs on with 1 HP and a dream. Makes the Aqua Tail. Forces switch advantage. We have minimal farm. The opponent takes us out with Togekiss, and we have the absolute perfect alignment. Walrein, despite the huge CP difference, pretty comfortable in this matchup. We go for the Icicle Sphere. Togekiss commits the final shield. This game is now absolutely over. I am going to shield up whatever they throw. The opponent looks to pivot into Excadrill. We come in to Swampert. Hydro Cannon absolutely obliterates this little steel mole. Get fucking wrecked when Togekiss does return. We are going to have to make one more Hydro Cannon, and the opponent concedes the match. And we managed to go a nice perfect 5-0 in set number 1. Shadow Walrein and Shadow Swampert, the absolute Donnies in any league. Moving on into the next battle, we see Excadrill in the lead. The opponent pivots out into Snorlax. Snorlax does beat the entirety of our team, so I throw the Hydro Cannon for some chip damage and now pivot out into my Gary. Snorlax is going to go for their body slam spam. We tank the first. I am going to go for the crunch. I either want to do big damage or fish for the defense drop. Does the opponent want to commit a shield on the crunch? No, they don't. We get the defense drop. I should be able to survive this next body slam commit to the Dragon Tail farm down, which we do. Excadrill is going to have a really tough time in farming us down. If they attempt the farm down, we will make one Aqua Tail. They bring in the Excadrill. The opponent then snipes with Dragonite, and we have the perfect response. Hi Dragonite, meet Walrein. The opponent is going to fire off a charge move. I am going to shield the first one. The correct timing would be 4, but I am going to throw on 5 because I know the opponent is going to be getting the energy for the Dragon Claw. I'm going to try and force the opponent to commit a shield, which they do, and this puts us in an absolutely great spot. I can now shield up the Dragon Claw, commit to the Powder Snow farm down. The opponent only has 1 shield remaining, and we're going to have the Earthquake lock and loaded. They know we've got Swampert in the back. They're going to try and call the bait. Hashtag I'm not baiting. GG's, and thanks for playing. We see Togekiss in the lead. Pretty neutral matchup. Charm is going to rip us apart. The 2 Hydro Cannon should pretty much get the job done. We fire off the first Hydro Cannon. The opponent lets it go. We are now going to throw 1 more Hydro Cannon. Does the opponent want to commit a shield? If they do, I'm going to have to pivot out into Walrein. The opponent does shield it up. We pivot out into the Walrus. The opponent is going to fire off the Ancient Power. We are absolutely going to respect the Ancient Power. Got a buff this season. It does do quite a lot of damage. The opponent is staying in and we commit to the very aggressive Powder Snow farm down. The opponent comes in to a Waterfall Gyarados, pretty questionable. We throw one Powder Snow, and the Icicle Sphere, we throw one more Powder Snow, and another Icicle Sphere. This is going to start lowering the health of the Gyarados. The opponent still staying in, so we throw 4 more Powder Snows, and the next Icicle Sphere. This should be enough to knock out the Gyarados. They must have something weak to ice in the back, and they've got a Dragonite, so I pivot out into Gyarados. The opponent is not throwing a charge move. We are going to go straight for the crunch, fishing for the defense drop. There's no point in baiting. The opponent does shield it up. They're not quite at the back-to-back, so I am going to shield this up, get off as much Dragon Tail damage as possible. The opponent does make one more charge move. They're on 1 HP, and a Dream. The opponent goes for the undercharge, but Gyarados manages to Dragon Tail, farm him down, and we take another dub. Moving on to the next one. We lead Swampert into Dragonite. You hate to see it. I pivot out into my Dragon Tail Gary, and the opponent answers with Shadow Snorlax. Not the best, not the worst. We go straight for the crunch. The opponent lets it go, and that does huge damage. The opponent fires off a Body Slam at great time, and we know we do tank this. I've got no intentions of shielding. I'm either going to flip switch or gain shield advantage, and to be honest, I'm pretty happy with either result. The opponent wants to maintain that really positive alignment. However, we know that 2 shielded Walrein, pretty good if they don't have a counter user. I'm going to come in to Swampert, soak whatever the Snorlax throws, and look to snipe with a Powder Snow to get ahead on Energy. Walrein gets the snipe. What is that final Pokemon? And it is Metagross. So the tendency here would be to bait, but hashtag I'm not baiting. We are going to have to shield up absolutely everything. The opponent goes for the Meteor Mash. I'm going to overfarm, pause, 1 turn, throw the Earthquake in the middle of the Bullet Punch animation. Earthquake draws the final shield. Again, we are going to have to be mindful that they could catch the double resisted Earthquake onto Dragonite. We commit our final shield. Again, I am going to overfarm. Look to pause, 1 turn, throw the Earthquake in the middle of the Bullet Punch animation. Night, Sleep type Metagross, back out comes Dragonite, and because we overfarmed, we land the double super effective Icicle Sphere, and that is all she wrote. GG's, and thanks for playing. 26, 98 CP Walrein going on an absolute tear up. Moving on to the next one. We lead Shadow Swampert into Metagross, pretty good. For Swampert, the opponent attempts to catch an Earthquake on the Gyarados, but I'm far too smart for that. We instantly pivot out into Walrein, and we are going to start spamming out Icicle Sphere. After Icicle Sphere, switch advantage is going to be quite important, as I believe there is a Dragonite in the back. Pretty common team. We shield the crunch, and we get the defense drop. You hate to see it. This is now going to mean we could potentially lose switch. This is just an Aqua Tail. If we didn't get debuffed, we would make 2 more Icicle Spheres, which would either win switch or get all shields down. The opponent can shield this up, and you're going to see we are going to fall just short. You hate to see it. I am now going to be forced to come in with the Gary, and I'm really wondering what the heck do I do with this Swampert. A Swampert versus Dragonite is pretty dreadful. We do commit to the Dragon Tail farm down. Metagross does return. I am going to shield up the Meteor Mash because I need as much health on Gary as physically possible. Resisted Meteor Mash does do around 50% of our HP. I am going to return fire with the crunch. The opponent is going to let it go. I'm now going to look to snipe with Swampert. We successfully snipe, and it is Dragonite. But as always, as I say, Swampert, no grass, no problem. We are going to spam Hydro Cannon after Hydro Cannon. First one doesn't do that much, but guess what? Have number 2 Dragonite. You don't like that? Well, guess what? Have number fucking 3. The opponent does actually commit a shield, and Swampert still loaded. Swampert is the spammiest mon in existence. The opponent is going to commit to the farm down, but Swampert, as always, puts in a whole heap of work. The resisted Hydro Cannons have got this thing deep into the red unless his opponent is on a nuke move like Hurricane, Draco or Outrage. We're going to take this game. GG's, and thanks for playing. Moving on into the next battle, we are 9-0. We see Magnezone, things are looking great. The opponent say switches into Machamp. We answer with Gyarados. I know the opponent is probably going to bait me, but I don't really care. I am going to shield up the cross shot, going to throw 1 more Dragon Tail and the Aqua Tail. If the opponent shields, I'll happily go down 2 shields, as Magnezone doesn't appreciate the charge moves from our Gyarados. The opponent is at a rock side. I do commit my final shield. They do go for the rock side. We are going to commit to the Dragon Tail farm down. You can see we've got a whole heap of residual energy back out. Comes Magnezone. They are hitting us for double super effective. But these Aqua Tails do chunk. First one does 50% of the HP. This second one is going to threaten the knockout. Let's see if the opponent wants to commit to the zone. Yes, they do. We get sparked all the way down. But Swampert a pretty good wall to this energy. The opponent is most likely going to wild charge and dip. That is resisted, but holy smokes, it does a lot. It's Snorlax in the back, and this is a problem. I'm going to throw the Hydro Cannon for some chip damage. I'm going to build up a little bit of residual so I can outpace that Magnezone and send in the Walrus. Walrus is in danger from the super power. The opponent doesn't throw it immediately. We land the Icicle Sphere. This thing gets Snorlax deep into the red. The opponent is going to throw the super power, but Walrus, the big thick Walrus that it is at 26, 98 CP, shrugs it off. We powder snow farm them all the way down. Magnezone gets only one spark. In comes Swampert. We make the Hydro Cannon, and that is going to be all she wrote. GG's, and thanks for playing. And channel favourite, the GOAT, Shadow Swampert, cleans up the final battle. So that was a perfect 10-0, 2 back-to-back 5-0s with a triple water team. Do I recommend this team? Not really, but it is pretty fun. I'm not really one for grinding elo. You can see we're almost at veteran. I like to take things slow and steady on the channel and showcase a variety of content. So if you're enjoying the content, smash that like button if you're new. Consider subscribing if you like your battles featured on the channel. Link to my battles submission form is down below. Just like to say thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.